Once upon a time, in a forest, there lived a family of elephants. The king elephant Yellow, his wife Lowly, and their two kids, Somi and Momi. They lived alongside a large colony of elephants near a great lake. The forest was full of tall trees, juicy fruits, and lush green grass. Life was easy for them, and they never had to worry about anything. However, for the past year, the rain had stopped falling. Slowly, the lake began to dry up, and soon there was very little water left. While the smaller animals didn't seem to be in trouble, the elephants found themselves in a difficult situation. They were thirsty, and there was no water to be found. They wandered through the dense forest, searching for a new water source, but all in vain. They all had tired, dry faces, their bodies showing signs of thirst. The trees were withering, and the grass was almost all gone. The little ones, including Somi and Momi, often cried out from hunger and thirst. Their tiny bodies were weak from the lack of food and water. Their cries echoed through the forest. One night, while Somi and Momi were fast asleep, Lowly turned to Zeno and said,
"We need to go find water. Maybe we can find a lake."
Zeno sighed.
But Somi and Momi are already so thirsty. How can they travel?
Lowly said.
We have to try. Without water, we won't survive.
Zeno nodded. They both tried to sleep, but sleep didn't come that night. The next morning, Somi and Momi woke up. Lowly smiled and said,
Get ready, kids. We are going to search for water.
Somi made a face and replied,
But, Mom, we have already looked everywhere and found nothing. We're thirsty and hungry. It's hard to even find food here. How will we manage the journey?
Momi added.
Yes. It's too hard.
Lowly smiled and said,
Don't worry, my dears. Maybe today we will find a lake. We shouldn't lose hope.
Zeno, who had been listening, spoke up.
And think of it like a picnic.
He said,
This way, you can enjoy walking through the forest.
Somi nodded. Momi jumped up.
We are going to a picnic.
Lowly and Zeno both smiled at their kids. Before they set out, Lowly's friend, Rumi, came with her kids, Johnny and Mickey. Rumi said,
Lowly, please take my kids with you.
Lowly asked,
But why aren't you coming with us?
Rumi said,
I need to visit my sister's house. Last night, I had a strange dream. I'm worried. And I want to see her.
Loli smiled.
Don't worry, Rumi. She will be fine.
Rumi felt a bit better, and after a quick hug, she left. With that, Loli, Zeno, and the kids set out to search for water. Many others in the colony were also heading out with them, searching for a water source. Zeno looked at the elephants and said,
Stay closer, kids. It's important for your safety. Don't walk behind. We have to stick together.
They walked on, with no water in sight. The sun beat down, and the dry trees and empty ground only made things harder. There was no grass left to eat, just endless dust. Somi wiped her sweaty face and groaned.
I'm so thirsty. Mom.
Momi, holding her stomach, said,
I'm hungry too. And my legs hurt.
Johnny, feeling the heat, sighed.
The sun is too hot. I can't walk anymore.
Mickey, barely able to keep up, whimpered.
When will we find water?
The other elephants and their kids were also very tired. Loli and Zeno exchanged worried glances. Loli knelt down and gently rubbed Somi's back.
I know it's tough, sweetie. But we are doing this together. We will find water soon. I promise.
Zeno patted Momi's head.
You are strong. Momi. We will keep going just a little longer.
They comforted many other kids, even though they were worried also. Suddenly they saw a small source of water. The kids rushed toward it and drank eagerly.
It's not much.
Momi said, looking disappointed. Zeno smiled and patted her head.
I know. Dear. But it's enough for now. We are not as thirsty as before.
The kids smiled. They searched and soon found some grass. They ate it happily. After some time, they started their journey back home. Till night, they reached home. Johnny and Mickey stayed with them that night. Soon, they were all fast asleep. After some days, Zeno gathered the whole elephant community.
Listen. We need to set out to search for water. I hope we will find a big water source. And we will settle there for now.
One spoke up sadly.
But how can we leave our home behind?
Zeno replied.
I know it's hard. But it's necessary. Once the rain comes, we can return.
The next morning, they all set out together. One morning, they found a lake and rushed to the water. The mud banks of the lake were soft and wet. Rabbits had made their burrows there. The elephants wounded or killed many of the rabbits and destroyed their house. It was terrible. After quenching their thirst, they settled a distance away from the lake. The rabbits felt helpless. They cried a lot. Then they started discussing what they should do to protect themselves from such an attack in the future.
They are simply too huge and too many. But we must find a way. Mustn't we?
One little fellow, O'Neill, piped up.
Can't we frighten them off?
Yes. That is not a bad idea. Let me think,
said an old rabbit, Oliver. After a while he said,
You know elephants are slightly foolish creatures. They will believe anything you tell them. One of us will go as a messenger to the elephants. Tell the king. God has ordered that the elephants should not come there again. If they want to live.
O'Neill went off and waited on a hillock for the elephant herd to come. As evening came, he saw the herd coming. O'Neill called out to the king.
Sir, do not go to the lake again. Your lives are in danger. God has sent me to convey his order to you.
Tears welled up in Zeno's eyes as he bowed his head and said softly,
We will obey God's order.
He turned to leave, but as he did, the kids started crying. And soon, all the elephants were weeping. O'Neill's heart melted at the sight of their sorrow. He shouted,
Stop. Please.
Zeno turned back. O'Neill said,
O king, you should stay here. I will come tomorrow. Maybe God will have pity on you.
Zeno bowed and said,
Thank you.
O'Neill returned back and explained everything.
The elephants are in worse condition. They are weak, thirsty, and their children are crying deeply. They need help.
Oliver asked.
But what can we do?
O'Neill replied,
I have an idea. I will go tomorrow and tell them that the rabbits will live on one side of the lake, and the elephants will live on the other side.
Oliver nodded. The next evening, O'Neill returned. And Zeno, along with the others, was waiting anxiously. O'Neill spoke.
God has spoken. The rabbits will live on one side of the lake, and elephants will live on the other side.
Zeno bowed.
We thank God for this blessing.
Somi, Momi, and all the children were jumping with joy. They were all overjoyed. Loli and Zeno smiled at each other. They were relieved and happy that their community had found such a good place. Moral: Wisdom and kindness can create harmony even in difficult times.